All right, guys, welcome back to Tar Heel 24/7. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones. And guys, we're here for another daily drop. And in this one, we're going to be talking about a little bit of the attrition and a little bit of the shuffling that has been going on, particularly on the offensive line of scrimmage. Now, I'm going to say it again. I said this on the quarterback one, and I hope this isn't coming off like a plug, which it kind of is because I am plugging the website, AJ. But the reason I say it is because if you were on our message boards, our premium boards, you would have heard a lot about this before it was ever made public. And I'm talking about the Austin Blaske injury news. I'm talking about the Christo Kelly injury news. And I'm also talking about something AJ broke on Thursday, August 21st, about Peter Pesansky's position change over to the offensive line. So again, these are all things that were kind of discussed in our intel drops and mentioned in our intel drops, particularly those offensive line injuries. And that's why it's so important and why I always push signing up for our premium subscription at Tar Heel 24/7. That's the perks of doing so. We put that information out first, way before we ever talk about it on a podcast, because again, people pay their hard-earned money to be a part of our community.
Before you see it on Twitter.
Information. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, like Blaske. Like we had the report with the Austin Blaske injury when we broke that. I didn't even put his name in the tweet.
No.
Just which I probably should have.
Yeah, maybe in hindsight, but I understand why.
But then with Christo Kelly, and then we got the Eden Buchanan's name floated out there, and I want people that pay their hard-earned money to get that stuff first.
Yes,
that's the bottom line. And other people will get it, I guess, eventually. A lot of this stuff usually comes out. There are other outlets that cover it and cover it well. Also, they have information too. So, but that's the way we do it, generally speaking. And I think it's good to say this and let people know, because there has been a lot of movement on the offensive line. The offensive line has been pretty wild stuff going on.
Yeah, I know.
Since the start of training camp, and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit here. And part of it is the response and reaction to some of the attrition that it's had.
For sure. And again, that's why I always try to bring it up, because it's not really a plug. It's just like we're not going to go on our boards and report something and then record a podcast 15 minutes later and put it out to everybody. That's just, it doesn't make sense for the people who pay their money to be on our premium board. So come on over and sign up. If you don't, great. We're going to put out a lot of free content on here, as you guys know, on YouTube anyway.
We do a ton of free stuff.
A ton of free stuff. It's it wouldn't.
We're going to give you a lot on this one
too.
We're going to give you a lot on this one too. So now we probably spent 2.5 minutes plugging when you said we weren't going to plug. Someone's going to call Jacob out on that.
Oh, people, yeah, they'll call me out in the comments. Well, I'm used to it at this point, though. It comes with territory.
So let's dive into it, because I love talking offensive line, and I'm a big offensive line guy.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking. I know I love them lines of scrimmage, pick that offensive line. But yeah, again, starting with the Blaske news, that kind of came out first about his injury, expected to be out till kind of October. Clemson game's kind of a marker. Hopefully he can return to then. Is a foot injury. We talked about it on a previous podcast, and I forgot which one it was. I think it was the best case, worst case drop we did earlier last week, where I kind of mentioned, it's a foot injury. Want him back by October. It's a very physical position group, one where you're guaranteed contact. Is he ever fully healthy during the season? I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out, but it is a worry and is a big loss for the offensive line.
Let me jump in real fast. One bit of information I didn't reveal during that podcast is that as of several days ago, they didn't really even know to what extent, because they were allowing it time. There was less swelling. Yeah. They want the swelling to go down. So it took longer for them to be able to pinpoint anything than they originally thought. And I don't know what the pinpoint is. So we haven't put it on our boards. I don't know it. I can't sit here and say, well, I know, but I'm not going to tell you. I don't know what it is. I know that the goal is Clemson. For Carolina, they're very fortunate that there's an open date before Clemson. So Clemson is really week 6, not week 5. And there's an open date after Clemson. So even if he goes at 75%, let's say for the sake of discussion, then he's got another week to heal afterward for the final push of those last 7 games. So they have 5 games through the first 7 weeks of the season. So even if he doesn't play Clemson, getting him back for the last 7 looks pretty favorable. So he's still going to end up having him for the majority of the season, but they really want him for Clemson for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I totally get that. And again, it remains to be seen what that looks like. We've seen it happen before, not just in Carolina, but where guys get injured in fall camp and they're expected to be back by a certain timetable, and maybe they're not back or they're not ready to go. But you are right. The bye weeks on either side of the Clemson game does set up well in his respect, if that is a realistic kind of timetable, which we, believe it is based on everything we've heard. And then again, not too long after, I think you put this on our boards on the 18th, which was a Monday. Correct me.
No, it was the training camp. That's when someone asked a question about it in the thread. The training camp report I did last Saturday night.
It was last Saturday when the Kelly, you're talking about.
And I posted it. Christo Kelly, I posted it at 2:30 in the morning because they had a night practice. They had a night practice. So naturally I'm up and I'm accumulating information, talking with sources, making sure there's common thread between some information from sources, which gives me the confidence to report it. And I put it out at about 2:30 in the morning. And that was about that Christo Kelly was not seen at practice and that there was something going on. I did not know much else of what it was. Then the Monday, somebody sent me a photo of him with one of the little riding things. He had his knee up on it and he was walking with the other one. And I was told left knee. And I'm like, well, his left knee, why is his knee on that?
Yeah.
So because I don't know what the injury is, I'm not going to say right here, and I haven't put it on our boards because I don't know because I've heard different stuff. I'm just saying lower body injury, left lower leg injury of some degree. Don't know to what extent. Also don't know how long he's going to be out. There were some people that wondered why there was no expectation date to return, and that's because none of us know the extent of it. If we don't know the extent of it, we're not going to know any kind of return date. In fact, when I was at practice on Wednesday, first thing I did was look to see if I could see him out there. So that tells you that I did not know the extent or how long he'd be out. He's just out. Guys miss practice all the time. Will Hardy didn't practice that Saturday night either. He was on the sideline. He was seen, but he didn't practice. Dudes miss practice. They get banged up all the time. So we still don't know to this day, we're recording this on Friday, we still don't know exactly the extent of it. We just know that right now, third center is Chad Lindbergh, the transfer from Rice, and he's on a speed process to get fully acclimated with being center number one with everything. And he's trying to shore up aspects of his game that will bring him up to snuff once they open against TCU. And the backup, you look at Bo Burks was the backup from what we saw the other day. He was a walk-on last year in the program. He's played 4 or 5 snaps at Carolina. But there's somebody else I've heard that's actually serving as a backup now. I'm not going to put it on the podcast right now because I haven't gotten it fully confirmed. But it's a very experienced guy who's been in the program, has been getting a lot of work also at center as a just-in-case measure. But I got to get that confirmed. And I haven't. Yeah. I have heard it from 2 people. I need a third before I really feel comfortable with that because I haven't seen it myself. I didn't see it the other day. And they may have been on display for other eyes, but we only had shorter period of time, and I didn't spend all of it watching the offensive line.
So you're telling me you don't just run to Twitter when you hear something and just make it facts. You actually wait to get it vetted first before you put it
just so you guys know, that's a long going kind of inside joke with Jacob and me about stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we see it on Twitter like every single day with any news in the world, not just sports news. Look, but again,
there's a plane in the sky.
Yeah, it's like I appreciate you making sure it's confirmed before you go tell everybody about it. Speaking of something that was confirmed before you told everybody about it, on Thursday, August 21st, you put out the news about Peter Pesansky, position change, moving over, redshirt freshman, moving over from defensive line to offensive line. Is that just because of the attrition over there? Is that the main reason? Like, what's behind that move? Do you know?
I think it's an easy thing to say, but my understanding is this had been in the works.
Okay.
And it doesn't surprise me. The importance of being there and being around the program, you kind of just get a better sense of things sometimes. And if you're not, which is why I'm a proponent of if you can travel, if you're covering a team and you can travel, you got to travel. You just got to be around them as much as you possibly can. And my gauge of Peter Pesansky was that he didn't seem to kind of fit as much with the scheme defensively, what they wanted to do. He's behind a bunch of guys they brought in. Leroy Jackson played 3 snaps last year, but was way further ahead than Peter Pesansky, who played no snaps last year. Both came in with the same class. We actually spoke to Leroy a couple of weeks ago. And just so Carolina fans know, when we used to be able to ask like request players and they would say yay or nay. Now they choose who we talk to. So A little insight for you. If they give us a player to talk to, that means the player is doing very, very well. So Leroy Jackson is doing very, very well. That's why we got him. We got Alex Taylor the other day. He's doing very, very well. That's why we got him. So Pesansky was probably fourth, if you will. I mean, he's kind of back on the depth chart. And when you look at him physically, he kind of looks like a guy that could play center. Now, I don't know if he's going to work at center. My understanding is he did play some center in high school. And I would think that because of attrition, but also because, look, he's not going to get on the field in defense. We think he could be an offensive lineman. Let's get him over there and start working on it now, getting practice reps and all that now, because the defensive reps in practice are wasted if we're going to end up moving him anyway. So move him now. Guys move all the time in training camp. He's just one that we know for sure has moved. There may have been others we just don't know about right now. I think when you look at him as a football player, there's like a Brian Anderson there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Corey Gaynor. I don't know if he's as choose glass like Corey, but Corey's on that side of the ball helping out the program. Corey's still with the program.
He's on the staff technically.
Yeah. And so he kind of fits that suit more. So I would personally say, and this is without any knowledge, any inside information, I could see him projecting as a center. And now that you've got two centers out, and we don't know the extent of Kelly, and in Kelly's, he could come back and get hurt, go in and out, and they've got to continue gaining confidence in Chad Lindbergh, and then they're looking at moving a possible starter over if it's necessary as the backup center for whatever reason. Yeah, you might as well start getting someone else ready in that part of the room anyway. So I think that there are multiple prongs, but the initial thing, I think that this was probably being discussed before there was attrition on the offensive side, was that his future is probably on the offensive side. Let's let him have contact. They have to do the eval once they get full 100%, bring him to the ground contact, not just thud. And they saw that, and that's when the determination was made. So I think that came first, but speeding it up was a little bit of the attrition kind of made it happen a little bit quicker than perhaps they would have done previously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you mentioned him maybe going over that center. I mean, he's 6'2" with cleats on. Remember, these measurements are done with their cleats on. You got to remember that. 6'2", 290. I mean, that kind of specs out a little bit more for a center in regards to, Chad Lindbergh, who, again, I maybe he can do that role. Maybe he's great at it. He's 6'6". I mean, that's big. That's tall for a center, man. You don't see that super often. And that does come, I think, with a little bit of maybe a downside when you got barely a 6 foot quarterback. I don't know if Gio's 6 foot, probably not, a barely 6 foot quarterback kind of behind him. I mean, I don't know if that's ideal in a perfect world. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but that's a big discrepancy in height. And I think ideally you'd probably rather not have a guy that's,
I think you have the guys the guys that play the best. And if you have 6'6", 340 across the board and they all are quick and could pass block and run block, if they could pull, if they could identify. And by the way, a line I got to throw out there that one of the reasons why I'm really, really enjoying Belichick more and more and more is I like the football nerddom in the way he talks. I'm a big baseball nerd guy. There's a strong element of seam head to me from a baseball standpoint. I love minutia in basketball. I'm a guy that could watch pick and roll drills all day long. I could watch guys practice, screens on the lower blocks and
taking a charge or something on 30 minutes.
Taking a charge. I mean, I could watch a practice with no rims on the basket. You know what I'm saying?
Could, yeah.
So in football, it's very much the same way. And when Belichick said the other day, it's the first time I've ever heard any coach say it this way. He said, we need all five eyes to be one set of eyes. We need all five to see the same thing. And that's a big part of it. So there's going to be some surprises to people, personnel. Some of us who cover the team have been a little bit surprised by the way things are shaken out because of that factor. Then you throw in, well, just because a guy's huge doesn't mean he's going to play. But if he's really huge and he's nimble and he sees across the line of scrimmage what the other four are seeing, you don't want to just rely on a center making calls. If it's so loud and the center's call cannot be heard, the two guards and the two tackles have to know exactly what the center sees. They have to see it too. So they have to be able to understand. This is higher tech stuff than what coaching staffs have publicly spoken about before, which is why someone like Eden Buchanan, the true freshman, has skyrocketed during training camp. He showed up in June. Skyrocketed. He's leaped a bunch of experienced dudes. A projected starter at tackle is no longer a projected starter, and this guy's in his 5th year. And here's Eden Buchanan, who's a true freshman from Maryland. Boom, he's in that spot. So I love the Belichick way as a journalist, figuring it out and seeing this. And we'll see the dots start to connect when they play. I mean, they may not be very good. We have no idea. But if they are, you're going to see it play out right in front of your eyes. So I think that's why offensive line, to me, has been by far the most interesting position group in training camp. A, because it's been the most news. Yeah. B, every source I talk to, they're like, well, here's some offensive line stuff. And that's not always the case because it's the least sexy position group, literally and figuratively, on the team, right? And it's the group that people never really talk about unless the guy, legal receiver downfield or is another holding penalty on such and such, that kind of thing. So I've been really, really enjoying the tidbits of information I get, trying to connect those dots from what I get, and then listening to Bill Belichick tell us what's real. And he's telling us the evaluation process. He's telling you the bullet points of what guys must be able to check off in order to be on that starting offensive line, in order to be trusted and be on the field. He's telling us. It's right there. He's just not attaching any names to it, which kind of makes this a really fun process in some ways. Frustrating to some extent. Our paying subscribers want more information. I would love to give them more inside information, but I ain't going to throw something at them that hasn't been confirmed. So, but you know what happens on September 1st, Jacob? Confirmation.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what happens. That's why I'm looking forward to it so much, because it's like I'm tired of speculating. You know what I mean? I just want to see it from my own eyes. We'll make judgments based on what we see instead of kind of what we're hearing or what might happen or whatever. But last thing, there's some Carolina fans out there that are concerned by the attrition, rightly so. I mean, I don't think the University of Georgia would be very happy if would be just all sunshine and rainbows if they're two centers essentially went down with an injury 2 weeks before the season starts. I don't think best team in the country would have some concerns with that, much less a team that whole lot of new faces on that O-line, never really played a game together. Staff is completely new, program's completely new, all that stuff I've said a million times before on previous shows. Are they right to be concerned? Because again, it seems kind of like a no-brainer of like, well, this isn't what you really want to hear. I mean, Belichick might be like, yeah, we'll be all right, we'll figure it out. But I don't think any coach in the country wants two of their, centers to go down with an injury. It doesn't seem like a great way to start the year. You know what I mean? I think there are reasons to be concerned with that because we already had question marks about the O-line. We don't know how good it's going to be. And now they're down 2 guys essentially.
The absolute irony of what you just said is that Austin Blaske started out at Georgia and he was a teammate of Chad Lindbergh at Georgia.
Yeah, no, it's got a lot of Georgia connections.
So Blaske is out and Lindbergh is the third center now, and he's now in at center. So you have your Georgia reference without you even thinking about it, fully connects into the Keenum Football Center.
That's my Georgia Bulldog knowledge right there, man. That was intended right there. No, it really wasn't.
I think that there's just cause for fans to be concerned for a couple of reasons because, for example, Eden Buchanan. And I floated his name out there last Saturday night, and I made it very clear that, look, don't read too much into this. Not yet. But every year we hear about a true freshman or two.
That's like clockwork.
And you're like, man, okay, what do we make of this? We get told these things. Training camp is always everybody's great. And they have done a really good job with these players of telling them not to tell us everybody's great. We got that before. The players aren't saying much either. They've been schooled on what to say and what not to say, more on what not to say to us. But a year ago, what was the name we kept hearing? We kept hearing Aiden Banfield. And I'm like, there's no way they're going to start a true freshman on the offensive line. No way. And who runs out there in the first offensive series against Minnesota? Aiden Banfield. All of us tweeted. All of us put it on our boards. Well, they actually are starting a true freshman on the offensive line. So I noted that in the report. But I threw Aiden Banfield in there so people will kind of connect that dot. What I'm hearing is this dude has just jumped over all these old guys. They brought in old guys that were starters elsewhere, were all conference in lower levels of FBS, the Sun Belt, et cetera. And here's this dude who's a 3-star who originally signed with West Virginia, got out of his letter of intent, ended up coming to Carolina, enrolled in June. And I walked behind him the other day, and I almost turned around and ran the other way because I was terrified. He's legit 6'9", 330, but he's a freshman.
All airport team captain right there.
All baby. Airport team, but what I'm hearing, he's really good with his hands. He's really good fundamentally. Belichick preaches fundamentals. Fundamentals will get you out of predicaments and keep you from getting into predicaments. Mm-hmm. Fundamentals will help you recover. If you get beat on the snap, you still can recover and make your play. Mm-hmm. And what I'm hearing is that this kid there's like a resilience to him. He's unfazed that at his age, he's out there playing against a bunch of these older dudes and he's getting the job done. Now, whether he remains the starter or a starter, whether he is a starter when they play the Texas Christian, we'll see. But man, every time someone wants to talk offensive line, that's the first name that comes out of the mouth. The very first one. And one guy I talked to at like 11:30, 12, and 12:30 last Saturday night, 72, man. 72. He's the same one that said Thad Dixon. Thad Dixon. I put that in my report. My Thad Dixon part of the report was Thad Dixon, exclamation mark. Thad
I know, yeah. I thought that was funny. Yeah, I thought
That's
that was
all
funny.
I
I did see that.
He's gonna be. You all gotta love Thad Dixon. He's a cornerback, just by the way. But he said 72.
Yeah.
Three times 72.
It's good to hear. I mean, I think you want guys stepping up. You want guys kind of making waves in fall camp. And I guess it doesn't really matter what age. I don't care if they're 18, 19, or 27. Like I'm joking about that age, but there's probably somebody in college right now who's 27 playing college football in today's world. It's just one of those things where you just want somebody kind of stepping up and showing out. And it sounds like that's what he's doing. And I'm a firm believer in this, AJ. If he's good enough, he's old enough. It doesn't really matter what. It's like kind of the Banfield thing. He's good enough and he played. You know what I mean?
And I think that's kind of where I think there were times some of the critics of Mac, and I think this goes for the wide receiver room. I've been told by a couple sources very, very close to this current situation that they were puzzled that Jordan Shipp didn't play 50 snaps a game, didn't run routes all game. Wasn't one of the leading receivers last year. Puzzled. Didn't make any sense. And then with Alex Taylor, they weren't, because he's a different player now than he was a year ago. So sometimes coaches will just hold guys back because they're freshmen. We're going to ease them into it because we always ease freshmen into it. But I will credit Randy Clements was saying, hey, Aiden Banfield's one of my best offensive linemen. I don't care how old he is. He's got to play on the field. The Belichick way is 100% fundamentals, and are your eyes seeing what the other eyes are seeing? At 6'9", 330, the other thing he said the other day is you have to make a decision. Are you going to go with the older guy who's more experienced and might not make some technical mistakes that a young player might make? Or do you go with the young player who's going to every once in a while really screw up, but man, his rate of progression is going to be such that he passes. He would then be better than the older player if he plays by, let's say, the end of September. That's very interesting because they brought in a bunch of old dudes to give this lot. There are 9 starters on the offensive line from a year ago. Well, if you include Ja'Kai Moore from South Carolina 2 years ago. So there's a ton of experience there. And by the way, keep an eye on him as being one of the possible starters.
You can ask about him, yeah.
So ahead of a returning starter who is massive, but had trouble on the edge. So I think that's what's interesting is the evaluation process is extensive. And I like the meticulous nature of the staff to allow every nuance to come out, to allow every bit of information to surface about who these guys are, which is why they're in no rush to say, well, this is who we're playing here. This is what we're doing there. When Belichick says, we'll see how it goes today, that's legitimately the way he's operating. And I got to tell you, man, I love it. I absolutely love it. Do I want more information? Yeah, I'm a greedy journalist. I want more information. Do I want more information for all of our subscribers? Yes, because they're greedy and want information, and I want to serve them as much as I can on a giant platter every day. But at the same time, this is a different approach. There's different messaging, and I find it to be very refreshing. I find it to be very fascinating. And again, as someone in the program told me a few days ago, excuse me, we're all going to find out September 1st.
Yeah.
We're going to have our notepads, and we're going to be writing everything down.
Mm-hmm. Just jotting away. I
love it. And I love it. So we're going to learn a lot about what's going on when the fans learn about it, which is fine. I like that. I'm telling you, I legitimately am enjoying this process because it's so different. And you got to go through the side door to get information every once in a while. And I think it's cool.
Yes. I'll wrap it up with this. It's kind of like a bad news, good news. Bad news, been attrition on the O-line, particularly at center. You don't want that. Good news, they got options, and we'll see how it plays out. But again, trying to project, even if these guys didn't get hurt, AJ, trying to project what this line's going to be, I've always said is very, very difficult to do. We just don't know.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'll ask our listeners this as well. I'm not going to throw specific names out there because I don't think it's fair, because not 1,000% confirmation on any of this. But for the sake of discussion, if you have someone who just showed up and they leapfrog a guy you bring in from the transfer who was all conference where he came from, but it was a smaller conference, okay? And you've got a dude who's got 3,000 snaps and a guy who's got none. A guy who was in the Catholic high school conference in the D.C. area last year, which I know very well about, as you know.
I bet you
do. I like to always talk about that league. I love that league. So where is your comfort zone with the baby deer leaping the experienced deer, the buck, whatever they're called, that knows how to do everything, right? Does it concern you that the older guy just isn't what they thought he was? He's not that good? Or does it tell you, man, that young guy is really good. He's got a really big upside. That's the question. I think with Aiden Banfield last year, part of that was they just didn't have that many options. I think right now the options are there. So I'm going to lean toward any young one, less experienced player, leapfrogging all these older players tells me that it's because the less experienced player has got a whole lot there. And the staff loves them. I think it's not, well, someone has to start at left guard. I'm not saying that's how Aiden Banfield won it last year, or right guard. But let's face it, they didn't have that much experience at all on that line last year. So it wasn't as shocking. If a true freshman starts with this group, even with the attrition, it means a lot of super experienced guys got passed by. So the question is, does that concern you or does that excite you?
You get involved in the comments. I know for me, I kind of sit on the fence a little bit. I hate to sit on the fence, but I kind of see it both ways. Like I would, because what it comes down to is both is like talent evaluation. You brought in a transfer who had experience at a lower level and you thought he could come in and do something. And then this true freshman who you also evaluated and recruited comes in and leapfrogs them. And I think in today's world, especially, man, it's a dog-eat-dog world. It's survival of the fittest, man. Whoever gives you the best chance to win. This is a professional organization now in this NIL era. This ain't amateur sports anymore. So whoever gives you the best chance to win, so be it. I don't care if he's 18. I don't care if he's, like I said, 23. It doesn't matter to me. And I don't think it matters to Bill Belichick, and I don't think it matters to anybody on that staff. If the freshman's better than the transfer, then he's going to play. And the other guy's not. Simple as that.
And if a guy is younger and good enough to play and should play over an older guy, you're going to have a much harder time. And you don't play him, you're going to have a hard time keeping him.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Let's wipe away anything that Bo Atkinson's told the media in Columbus, Ohio. Bo should have been on the field more than Des Evans last year.
1,000%.
And he wasn't.
1,000%.
And even though it was a new regime, his experience was he didn't play. I'm going to go somewhere else. Well, I don't know if he's starting or not at Ohio State. I have no idea. But that's a perfect example. You got to win with what you got. If that's the best dude to have out there, I don't care how if you're a head coach and when they used to go to dinner at people's houses and stuff, I don't care how good the meal Mama made was. I don't care how you personally feel about somebody. It has nothing to do with that. Can you help us win games? And that's what is really cool about Belichick being in North Carolina right now, is because the way the whole foundation and thinking about football is changing regardless of what happens during his time there, the next guy is going to walk into a situation in which, the excavation process has already taken place.
For sure.
It's a different foundation than it's ever been before. And you're not only seeing that just because of who he is, just because the money's being spent, but the way he operates, the way he makes decisions, the way his staff evaluates, all those things are an exceptionally high level. And that should become the standard. That should become a foundational in the tools that you want in future coaches. 100%. This should start something new, sort of a big boy Carolina football, seam head Carolina football. But Carolina basketball fans are basketball seam heads. They know. They know when there's stupid basketball being played. I'm not saying Carolina football fans don't know. A lot of them do. We have a lot of subscribers on our board that really know the game, and I love that. Mm-hmm. So the big boy approach by the program, all that's taking place right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yes, and like you said, I was going to say it earlier. I'm glad you brought it up, but like it's NIL era, man. You can't, if it's 10 years ago and you don't have guys like you just bolt and leave whenever they want to, and maybe you could be like, look, man, we're going to start this guy. We're going to bring you along next year's your year. But now it's like you do that now, and this guy's better than that guy. He's just going to leave and go play somewhere else. There's a lot less room for kind of, error in that respect anymore. So yeah, survival of the fittest, man. Whoever gives you the best chance to win, put him out there, man. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. So
play him.
But yeah, we'll see what happens. Both lines of scrimmage. We haven't talked about the D-line. I'm sure we'll talk about them as we get into the season, maybe before the season some more. But I think both lines of scrimmage have some question marks. Yeah,
we'll do it before because I'm trying to get some more info on D-line.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I'll just preface that podcast by saying we'll do it.
We'll record we'll definitely do one at some point for sure. All right, man.
I'm not at all surprised about D-line. I'll preface that podcast now. I'll tease it saying I'm not at all surprised.
No, me either. But we'll see. Like you said, September 1st, then we'll learn. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Appreciate y'all watching as always. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, head on over to our website, links in the description, get signed up, premium membership. Do it, man. Do it before the season starts. Do it now. Recruiting's 365 days a year. There's a ton of intel like we've talked about that you'll be privy to if you're signed up. So thanks, guys. See y'all next time.
Thanks.